Hi kids, me again. Okay, here's my second bedtime story, okay? And this is especially for all you children out there called Daisy, okay? This is called Daisy the Runaway Doll. Daisy fancied herself the smartest, the most beautiful, the best dressed, and altogether the most elegant of all the dolls in Laura's room. For one thing, although everyone called her Daisy, her full name was much grander. It was Daisy Dorinda Deborah Delilah Dinah Darlington Dean, I have you know. For another thing, there was only one of her. Not like some other dolls who have identical sisters or brothers. Everywhere you care to look. No, Daisy was very, very special. She had been made by Laura's Aunt Susan, who had given her to Laura for her 4th birthday. Her eyes were made of shiny black buttons. Her hair was made of the finest sunflower gold wool. Her smile was sewn on with rosy red thread. She had 3 beautiful dresses, all with matching shoes and lacy socks. She had her own suitcase for all her finery and her own little blue umbrella. She sat proudly in her own special place on Laura's bed. And Laura took good care of Daisy. Every day she combed her golden hair, dressed her up in one of her beautiful dresses, and took her out in her buggy. Laura took Daisy to the park, to the shops, and to visit friends. Sometimes Laura had tea parties, and Daisy was always the guest of honour. Laura loved Daisy, and Daisy loved Laura, and they were so happy together. Things went on in this pleasant, carefree way for a long time. Then one summer afternoon, something terrible happened. A dog came to live with Laura and her parents. He was a big, sloppy, floppy-eared, tail-wagging, hairy, muddy-pawed spaniel called Max. And Laura loved him, just as she loved Daisy. It wouldn't have been so bad if Max had stayed out in the garden, but to Daisy's dismay he was allowed in the house with Laura and her mother and father. Max was even allowed in Laura's room, and to Daisy's horror, he was sometimes even allowed to jump on the bed. Then he would snuffle and muzzle Daisy with his big wet nose until Laura called him away. "Come on, Max," Laura would say happily, "catch the ball," and she would grab her blue rubber ball and throw it in the air. Max, his ears flying and his tail flapping wildly, would leap into the air and catch the ball in his big wet mouth. Like his big wet mouth, look, he's got a big wet mouth, look. Can you see? Look, soppy old boy. Okay, sorry, I'll carry on. Max never ever watched where he was going, and he didn't care who or what was in the way. He often stepped on Laura's cuddly toys with his big clumsy paws, just like these. Look, he's got big clumsy paws. He knocked down her trucks and cars and books with his wagging tail, and he crashed into the house where the little tiny dolls lived and knocked it over. And sometimes he picked up Laura's teddy bear and flung him right into the air. The amazing thing was that neither Laura nor any of the other toys seemed to mind all his madness and mayhem. In fact, they all seemed to enjoy playing with Max. But Daisy didn't want any part of his rowdy games, and she always shrank back when she heard Max's bark. But the more she shrank back, the more Max seemed to want to play with her. Come on, he would yap at Daisy. Please play with me. I'll give you a ride in the air. Old Teddy loves it, and you might too. Go away, you monster, Daisy would hiss at Mark when Laura's back was turned. Leave me alone, just leave me alone. One morning, towards the end of summer, Laura got dressed in some smart new clothes. I'm starting school today, she told Daisy, so I won't be able to play with you much, but don't worry, Max will look after you, won't you, Max? Yes. Right behind her, Max wagged his tail enthusiastically. And later, when Daisy heard the door close behind Laura and her mum, she dreaded what would happen next. Any minute now. Woof, 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 woof. Who's ready for some fun? Barked Max, as he came hurtling into the room with his floppy ears. See, he's got floppy ears. Floppy ears flying. I am, shouted old Teddy. I want to go flying high in the air. We are, squealed little tiny dolls. Let's play earthquake again, Max, when you rattle the doll's house and make everything wobbly. I'm ready, Max, called Cuddly Bunny. Let's play elephant steps on my tummy, Max. But Max knew who he wanted to play with. He lapped up onto the bed and bounded towards Daisy, the dainty doll. Come on, Daisy, rah, 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 he barked, tugging at her arm. You'll have fun, really. Leave me alone, snapped Daisy. Go away before you mess up my golden hair and tear my beautiful clothes. I'll be careful, barked Max eagerly. I promise. No, said Daisy. No, no, no. So Max went off to play with the other toys until Laura came home again. The same thing happened the next day. Each morning, Max would jump on the bed and say, Please, will you play with me today, Daisy? And each day, Daisy's answer was exactly the same. No, 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 and that is final. But Max would not give up. And after several weeks of this, one morning he went too far. He tugged and tugged. Oh, sorry. You all right? Yeah? Okay. Want some more? Okay. He tugged and tugged at Daisy's arm until he pulled the sleeve of her beautiful dress right off. Now look what you've done, shouted Daisy. That does it. I'm leaving. I have to go away and find another home, one without a dog. And with that, Daisy climbed down from the bed, packed all her things in her carrying case, and ran out of the room. A moment later, she was thumpeting down the stairs, trailing her case and her own special blue umbrella behind her. Daisy, wait, called Max. What will Laura say? Come back, Daisy. Come back, cried old Teddy, Cuddly Bunny, and the little tiny dolls. But Daisy was not turning back. She ran into the living room, clambered up on the sofa, and went right out through the open window. A second later, she was in the flower bed in the garden. It had rained the night before, and the flower bed was muddy and damp, and as Daisy stood up, she realised that her blue dress was all stained and soggy. Never mind, she thought, I have to be going. I'll be all right once I've found a lovely new home. Daisy had never been out on her own before, but she had been out with Laura dozens and dozens of times.